Welcome to Yarn and Garden. Today I want to show you how to make the Starburst granny square. For this square I am using one color for the first few rows and then a different color for the border. I have been trying to do some serious scrap busting, so for this project I'm going to start with this Caterina by Yarn Bee. This color is Tangotopia. This is a beautiful lightweight yarn. It has a little bit of nylon in it, and I absolutely love it, so I have lots of it in my stash. And for the border, I'm using another lightweight yarn that is inexpensive and just a black acrylic. Both of these yarns recommend a H or 8 size crochet hook, but I'm using a G or a 6 for this project. I'm going to start with the magic circle, or at least my version of the magic circle. So you want to leave kind of a long tail after your slip knot. I'm just going to make a loop out of that tail and then do a slip stitch to secure it like this. Now I'm going to pull the end nice and snug, make sure that stitch is nice and tight. Now you have a magic ring that's held together and it's easier to start your work. Start by chaining 2 and then we're going to double crochet around the magic ring. We are going to double crochet a total of 16 stitches. That chain 2 at the beginning counts as the first one, so there's 2. Now we have 15 double crochets plus that chain 2 from the beginning, so 16 stitches. We're going to pull that tail really, really tight. Now we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 2, and that will finish this round. I'm going to pick up that end and pull it through. That way I can work around it instead of having to weave it in at the end. But if you want to weave it in at the end, that works too. If you plan on changing color each round, like in a traditional granny square, this would be the place where you would want to pull your new color through. I'm just going to use this color for the first 3 rounds. This yarn changes color as you're working it, so it's going to make a really nice finished product. Once your first round is done, you're going to chain 2, and then we are going to work 16 puff stitches, and that'll be round 2. I'm going to work into both loops, and I'm going to draw up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over, work into the same stitch, pull up another loop, and then yarn over and pull up one more loop. Pull the yarn through all of those loops, and then you are going to chain 1 to finish the stitch. You're going to work 16 of these puff stitches for this round, 1 in each stitch from the previous round. Pulling the yarn through all of those loops can be kind of tricky. This yarn wants to split a little bit. The trick is just to make those yarn over and loops that you're pulling up nice and loose. That will help a lot. To finish this round, we're going to slip stitch it together in the top of this stitch right here, working in both loops. And again, if you are changing color each round, this would be the stitch where you want to introduce your next color. I'm just using this color for the first few rounds. Now we're just going to chain 2 to start the next round. For this round, we're going to be working clusters into these spaces between the puff stitches. We're still going to be working 16 clusters. We're going to start off by doing a double crochet, but we're only going to work through the first half of it. So I still have 2 loops on my hook, but I'm going to start like I'm going to make another double crochet and do the same thing. I'm just going to work the first half of it, so pull through 2, and then you'll have 3 loops on your hook. So that chain 2 in the very beginning counts as our first stitch. Every time we do a cluster, we're going to start making 3 double crochets and then just crochet them all together and chain 1 to finish each cluster. We're going to do that again, working into the spaces in between those puff stitches from the last round. So here we are, we're going to start off like we're making a double crochet, pull through those first 2, and then stop there and start again. There we go, pull through 2, and a third one, and just pull through 2. And this time you're going to have 4 loops on your hook. So you're going to pull through all 4 loops and chain 1 to finish the stitch. You're going to repeat that little cluster a total of 16 clusters. By the end of this round, you'll really be able to see the slow fade that this yarn does. We're getting a little bit more gold and a little bit less of that tealy turquoisey color. I really enjoy working with yarns that change like that. I feel like it keeps my attention a little bit better, and the results are always just, a little more fun and a little more beautiful. Unfortunately, this yarn is no longer available, so I'm glad I have a few colors in my stash. So there's our last cluster, and we're going to do the same thing we did in the first couple rounds. We are just going to slip stitch this round together in that stitch right there, join the round, and that will finish the third round. This is also going to be the last round in this color, so we're just going to chain 1 to finish and pull it real tight and snip that end off. Here you can see that change in the yarn is going to make this and all the other squares super unique in color. Once we get the border attached, we're going to work into the spaces in between those clusters of the last round, and then you'll really be able to see the points in the starburst shape. So now we've got this part finished. We're going to add the border, which is going to turn this from a circle into a square. So we're going to get our other color and put a slip knot on your hook. You don't need to leave a long tail for this one. We're going to pick one of these little openings in between clusters. We're going to work into those spaces like we did in the previous round. So first we're just going to slip stitch this yarn to attach it. Then pull that tail nice and tight and chain 2 to get started. That chain 2 counts as your first stitch. We're going to do 3 double crochets in that same space for our first cluster. And into this next space we're going to work another cluster of 3, but this time we're going to do 3 half double crochets. And into the next space we're going to do another cluster of 3 double crochet. So these 3 clusters is what makes up each side of your square. So the next space we're going to work 2 clusters into the same space. So we're going to start by making a cluster of 3 triple or treble crochet, and this is how we're going to form the corners of our square. So that's 3 treble crochets. We're going to chain 3 and then do 3 more treble crochets in the same space. So there is the first side and the first corner. It's kind of hard to see with this black yarn, but that is going to be the repeat. You're going to do that same thing 4 times to make all the sides and corners of the square. So here's the last stitch of our last corner, and then we're just going to pick up this chain 2 that we started with, slip stitch it together, and it's all done. I am going to make a whole pile of these squares and turn them into a tote bag. So somewhere in the near future, you can look forward to seeing a video of the final product. Here's the square that I made just previous to this one. You can definitely see the slow change in the colors between the two. I also have another colorway of the same yarn, so I think I'm going to do the same thing with that one. So one of these days I'll show you how to assemble them into a bag. Thank you so much for watching.